Hello and welcome back to the feature of the show. We talk about movies past, present, and future. Today we're going back to the past to talk about one of my favorite movies of all time, 1987's Robocop.
This is heavy duty, Doc. This is great.
Robocop is what to me is Paul Verhoeven's masterpiece. It is the movie to me that defines some of my favorite films that I have ever seen, which are Robocop, Total Recall, and Starship Troopers. And this is the first one that really started such an interesting tone for a film to have. Robocop is starring Peter Weller and is a story of a cop in the future Detroit who is murdered by this gang of psychopathic criminals who then he is taken and his body is put into a robot. He's turned into a cyborg in order to fight crime for the corporate police force that's now it's basically being run by this corporation. He is now this big project that they're rolling out to promote that they are going to keep the city safe. And it's those elements for me that makes RoboCop so great. It's the mixture of humor, like just gritty gore and like violence, and then also satire.
The satire.
All wrapped into this amazing package. And honestly, some of just like visually one of the greatest movies I think I've ever seen.
What's amazing too is that satire was, a lot of it was prediction.
Yeah.
Too, and he really predicted kind of what corporate America and kind of what it would become, because it wasn't that yet at that time. So that's really interesting. Yeah, RoboCop is awesome. This movie is so singular. Like Paul Verhoeven, there's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's definitely why I love these movies. Is like exactly that statement. There is nothing else like these movies.
And it's got such like crazy. Like cinematography and like editing design, like the camera shots he uses and chooses, like their angles are just like it's just fun to watch, almost in the way that Sam Raimi does things. But yeah, it's and RoboCop is awesome. You know, dead or alive, you're coming with me.
Dead or alive, you are coming with me.
God, I love that line. RoboCop is awesome. He's iconic, and this movie is. It is a lot of fun, and I'm so glad we're doing the review on it right now.
Yeah, it's definitely a whacked out version of Detroit, just kind of this perspective look into the future from that time anyway, from, Paul Verhoeven, 1986, 1987, when he was filming this movie. And I definitely, like I said, I love the idea of this, basically this company has privatized the police force. And so you definitely get this interesting story of there's so much of this, like, political machinations are the reason why any of this is even happening.
Yeah.
Because of Miguel Ferrar's character wanting to move up, he's got this RoboCop project, and he's like, we're going to need a volunteer. And I always love this, because they say, we're going to need a volunteer, and they basically wait for the first cop to be shot up. And
he is definitely shot up.
Yes, he's shot to pieces by these criminals.
That would be, like, one of the most, like, brutal, haunting deaths of a character if you didn't know he was coming back.
Yeah.
Because it's so sick and demented, like how he's killed. It's just, and it's super
and I think going along, too, with kind of the idea I was talking about is that it's sick and demented, too, than what these people then do, and they take his body for this guy's career to advance, so that, you know what I mean? And you definitely get this idea of just sort of, there's this impersonal part to it. And spoilers for what happens ahead, I always find that so interesting that Boddicker actually works for the company.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And we know that he works specifically for the one in charge. I can't quite remember his name right now. But he works for him. But there's just something about that I always find to be so unsettling. Like I said, they talk about, like, we need to go get a volunteer. And it ends up being, immediately after he's killed by these people that are technically working for them. I always love that the corporate and the criminals are connected. It's this cyclical thing, Criminals go out on the street, they create all this violence, So, that causes the cops to have to come in, which then makes money for these big corporate fat cats. So it's this really just fun satire that Verhoeven, I think, just so expertly weaves into this film with his commercials.
The commercials are awesome, and they just keep happening throughout the movie,
the sitcom, too. I'd buy that for $1,
Yeah.
He definitely uses the advertising and the media as part of a thing that colors this world and colors like the characters that you see in it. Even though there is this kind of great charisma to some of them, especially like Miguel Ferrar's character, who is slimy, but at the same time,
he's pretty good.
Very charismatic, I think.
The standout is Kurtwood Smith, though. I mean, and and the story behind that too, because then he was auditioning for a good guy role, and they ended up making him the sick psychopathic killer.
He thought he was going to be one of the corporate guys.
Yeah,
is what he thought, because he was kind of known for playing just kind of more intellectual type characters, and like, no, we want you for the psychopathic criminal. So it's definitely different.
He's so good.
Yeah,
it's such a memorable role.
The thing that they really wanted is because they wanted the villain to seem like a threat because of how dangerous Robocop is. They wanted some guy that looked who looked intelligent, and that's the thing with Boddicker. He's crazy, but he's like kind of this like evil, like mastermind criminal. You know what I mean? He's like a leader. He is like I said, this dangerous mind compared to a lot of the other criminals you see who are just sort of like wild dogs. You know,
Ray Weiss.
Yeah.
Just laugh in the movie. Oh, it's so weird.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, Verhoeven does such a great job of being able to stretch reality in believable ways. Like, that this is sort of like this hyper intense version, but it's still rooted in something very real. And I think that that's what makes it so fun, is that we know that it's a stretch, but it's not a far enough stretch that it's unrecognizable. And I think that that's one of the things that I love about Robocop, and that it kind of adds to the grit, and it just kind of adds to, I think, the meaning of everything that's going on.
In a way, it's like a more satirical version of like a Clockwork Orange in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, in kind of the way that
definitely
movie
has that element.
Yeah, it definitely has that element. And it's just watching it again too. Some of the effects too, some of like the body gore and all that stuff in this movie is so gross and so much fun to watch, and the violence is just over the top in the best possible ways, as is all Verhoeven films. Total Recall is just awesome, and Starship Troopers too is just
that's my horror story there. Yeah, definitely. You have to love the effects in this. I actually really love the costume in this as well. I mean, you could sit there and make the argument that they're a little dated to the very 80s, but I love the design of Robocop. His whole suit.
Oh, his suit is awesome.
Even though we all watch it and see how impractical it is.
I would say what is it called now? The AT-AT. What is that called in the movie? That thing doesn't hold up as well.
Ed 201.
Yeah, Ed 201. Yeah, Ed 201. Yeah. The effects on that don't hold up quite.
No,
but
not
a lot
quite.
of stuff from the 80s isn't going.
I do find though with Ed is that he's funny though to me. Like every time I see him, I think that there's something about those effects that kind of make him cute.
He's just thinking about going down the stairs, like, and then Robocop's just like watching him from the bottom of the stairs, like, I'm supposed to be fighting this thing.
Like he's kind of like a big dog or something.
Yeah.
Like just kind of, I don't know. There's something very funny about Ed to me. So. Those effects definitely maybe don't quite hold up just because of like the style and the way that it's done, but I think it definitely adds something for the movie for me. Like it's still fun. It's still really cute and funny. The way he just moves around. He gets owned a lot, which
especially at the end. I love how slow and like deliberate, like Peter. When Robocop comes out, Alex Murphy, and he just puts the gun on the hood. Just puts like 3 rounds in it.
Yeah.
Then you still see it walking around, but it's...
Am I the only one that thinks those look like the sniper rifles from Halo? They look like the sniper, like they're especially in the barrel.
Do a bit, yeah.
I
think whoever wrote Eraser maybe stole a little bit from that. In the movie, Arnold's other movie Eraser, they kind of have guns similar to that too.
Yeah, well, I think it is actually. They just added some stuff to an actual real 50 cal sniper rifle that exists. So I think the designs probably are very similar. I just felt like watching this one, I almost wondered if the guys over at Bungie were a little inspired, like, we should make it look like the Robocop one. Because they kind of did that too with Aliens with Halo. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
The Space Marines and stuff. So there's definitely the 80s movie influence, so I was always kind of curious about that, where it does look like the Halo sniper rifle, just that little bit. I actually really love, too, when they get those in the street, when the criminals have them, too.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's actually like a really fun scene to watch.
Look out! It blows up the store.
It definitely highlights, and they do such a great job of highlighting just how dangerous this Detroit feels, and how, like, lawless and, like, messed up like this is. Like, we see so many shots. I mean, there's obviously the iconic the stopping the sexual assault scene.
Robocop shooting dicks off.
Castrating people. Some things I might have to show you after the cameras are done rolling. But, no, it's that kind of scene. I mean, what an asshole for shooting that guy in the dick, but no, I think that it definitely, those scenes, though, it definitely highlights, and you get that feeling for this world is really dangerous. And I think that, too, like, Murphy's death right away, you get this feeling of just like, okay, these cops could literally die at, like, any moment. Just how dangerous, how lawless, and just how messed up this future version of Detroit is, which now, actually, they have cleaner water in Robocop than they do in Detroit now, but that's totally another subject. So we've definitely talked a bit about the atmosphere of this film. We've talked about the directing. We've talked about a little bit of Paul Verhoeven. So what do you think about Peter Weller as Robocop, then?
I think he's really good. Especially when he comes in. I mean, you don't know too much about him. He just kind of shows up at the station. He's the new guy there. He gets the new partner, and they just go out in the streets, and this is what Detroit is like. And yeah, he's really good. You believe he's like this rookie cop coming in. Well, I mean, he's got experience, but he's rookie in this station.
To this station.
To this station, and to this district, and this district is more violent than where he came from. So
he's literally coming to replace cops that were brutally murdered by Boddicker.
Yeah. So he's good, and him in the suit too. He's like, it's very iconic. It is very, very iconic.
I really love the callback to the T.J. Hooker with T.J. Laser, and him doing the flip trick for his son. It's very important as the movie goes on. I feel like, as you know, the question is where is his humanity? Is he actually a person still? Is he still Murphy? Is he this robot? There's these really interesting existential kind of questions in this movie, a little bit about life and existence, and some definitely things to pick apart. Yeah, and definitely things to think about.
When was Ghost in the Shell written?
Would have been after this. I'm pretty sure. I had to look at when the manga was actually first written, but I would say this probably is before it.
And then this is Verhoeven's. This is his written work too. This is not an existing property before this. 1987.
From what I understand, there was producers with an idea about like a robot cop, and then there was another one of kind of like about like this person who is like killed and then becomes a cyborg, and that's where the idea really started to originate. And then Verhoeven took the raw script of those two guys' ideas and was able to kind of turn it into what we have
his
now.
His own little animal.
Yeah. Where, I think that's where you see like the satire comes in, and like some of the more like headier questions I think come in when you start looking at Verhoeven. I think the satire for sure that's got his stamp kind of all over it with a lot of those elements to the film. I really enjoy Peter Weller's RoboCop. I mean, they really wanted to get someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger at first, but they found that actually because the suit was so big, they actually needed a skinny guy to put in the suit. And if you look, he's like this tiny dude. Yeah. But I kind of like that about it though too, because it's like, you know, when it starts off, he's just kind of this little shrimpy guy, just kind of this normal average Joe. And then when he gets put into the suit, I think definitely in like 1987, seeing these effects, I think that would have had a huge impact of just sort of like, oh wow, look, he's kind of, you know, a much bigger, tougher kind of thing. I definitely, like I said, I love the design of RoboCop. I love just the suit in general. I love the holster, how his leg opens up, and then of course that gun is so cool.
Just like him doing the target practice.
Yeah, I love that.
When his partner
scene
first kind of looks over, and then he does the flip and puts it away, and she kind of like, oh, it's my partner. Yeah, it's Alex Murphy.
The connecting thread, like I was talking about before, from the TJ Laser thing. I mean, that's definitely where the movie gets very interesting. Is when he starts to remember who he is, or really starts to question and wonder about who that person was.
Yeah, when he investigates his own murder. Yeah, that's a really interesting aspect of the film.
I think that's definitely something that sets Verhoeven's movies apart when it comes to the three that I was talking about. Is that and what sets it apart from other movies of its ilk is that it has those extra layers. You have the extra layer of social commentary and satire. You have those extra layers of existentialism and these really heady questions about existence and like life and the soul. You know,
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it, is that you have these other things on top of it just being super fun, well directed, awesome effects, like.
Yeah, the direction, and it's funny too, because the budget for these films, it was only like, what, $10 million or less or something like that? So this is a cult hit. Like, this is a cult film. And, you know, obviously Verhoeven got some money then after that because Total Recall had a pretty big budget. But the design and the direction and all that stuff is so interesting, and then, like, the layers of satire and social commentary, that's what's missing from the remake. I think the remake is a fine film. Like, I think it's fine. It's fine.
Never saw it.
It's okay. Michael Keaton is good in it. I can't even remember his name. The guy who plays Robocop.
We don't talk about Joel Kinnaman now after Suicide Squad.
Joel Kinnaman, that's
He's got the guy's got an awful track record with me so far.
Well, I mean, the movie was fine, but, you know, like, what sets Robocop 1987 apart?
Yeah.
And it's all these different things.
Yeah, I think that's what makes the movie really stand the test of time. Like you said, it's almost predictive. You know what I mean? It's not quite Jules Verne, but he definitely is able to make some awesome sci-fi conjectures, and that's when sci-fi is at its best. And that's what I've kind of always said about it. It's to me, the truly great sci-fi are the ones that you look back at and you're like, oh my goodness, they actually had this amazing view of what the future was, and they got these things right. I mean, everybody talks about like Demolition Man and stuff like that. I think that RoboCop definitely has that kind of thing to it, that it is very predictive of like the future that would end up coming ahead. It's different, but honestly, not too far off the mark. So, John, RoboCop is a movie filled with iconic scenes. What is like one of your favorite scenes then from RoboCop? What's a scene to you that defines it?
I think it's it's a really memorable scene, but when he walks back into that warehouse, like in a fit of vengeance, basically, and takes down like everybody. Mm-hmm. I always like that scene quite a bit, but I think it's great. I think like a really iconic scene too is when he pulls up at the gas station. He recognizes the guy that
killed you.
We killed you. Yeah, and he's dead or alive. You're coming with me. And then the guy realizes that. So when he delivers that line as RoboCop, because he does it once before as a normal cop too. And when he it's that for me is very very singular in its moment.
Those are both really great scenes to pick. And I think that like one of the best things too though about the first scene you mentioned, the warehouse scene, is when he does catch up to Boddicker and he's telling his Miranda rights as he's like kicking the crap out of him. Yeah. I remember apparently cops in 1987 when they viewed that, a lot of people were worried the cops wouldn't like that. They actually loved that. They loved that sequence quite intensely. Do with that information what you will. For me, actually, one of my favorite little unsung scenes in this movie has definitely got to be the scene with Miguel Ferrer in the bathroom with some of the other executives. Is just such a hilarious scene, and it just indicates some of the things I love about the satire in this movie and some of its commentary on like corporations, corporate greed, and ambition. And so basically Miguel Ferrer is kind of talking some shit really about Dick Jones, the guy that he was able to kind of slide in under with his RoboCop idea when Ed 201 kind of like imploded in his face. It ends up killing one of the other executives and shooting him out a window in graphic, awesome blood squib fashion. That would even make Tarantino blush a little bit. He's talking some shit with some of the other executives about how, they're the young, hot guys now, and, this is what the future's gonna be like. It's about them and stuff. They're gonna own it. Old, washed up guys like Dick Jones are just pussies in disguise. He's saying all of this while Dick Jones is taking a dump in the stall, and some of the other executives know this. You see them hurriedly like washing their hands, like, getting out, and then
on themselves.
His friend realizes who is behind them, and he's like, and realizes I have to go to a meeting. And as you see, as he's zipping out, he's in his hurry. He's pissed on his own pants a little bit as he's running out the door, and they have this great back and forth then of Dick Jones intimidating him and threatening him. It's just, I think, just a really funny scene that really, I think, is indicative of something that really separates RoboCop from other movies that could be similar to RoboCop. Just absolutely love that scene. All right, we've definitely gushed quite a bit about RoboCop 1987. John, what is your final summary and grade for RoboCop?
RoboCop is a delightful trip into exploitative violence and, just satire and social commentary. And RoboCop, his design and his lines and everything about what makes Alex Murphy really does hold up 30 years from now. He's such an awesome character. And, some of the stuff that they talk about in this film, it really does stand the test of time and predicted a lot of stuff in the future now. So, RoboCop is a lot of fun. It's a very memorable movie, and it's something that I'll go back to again and again and again. For some negatives, I have very, very few. I think that some of the effects don't quite hold up. That's not really necessarily a complaint 30 years later. But, I think I'm giving RoboCop an A.
RoboCop, I think, is a misunderstood cult classic. It's a movie with a lot more depth than people will ever give it credit for. I definitely think that it's one to examine and study. There's been so many theories about him being a Christ-like figure and the Christ-like imagery in it, from his hands being shot off to be like the crucifixion, to him walking on water, to, like we talked about before, the political and social commentary that's going on and satire that's going on, and not to mention its fun, tongue-in-cheek violence and just excellent sci-fi and view of the future. It's filled with great effects, some awesome performances, and just, I think, a lot of people having a lot of fun with a really ingenious idea that I think that doesn't quite get the appreciation it didn't when it first came out.
No.
This is definitely one of my favorite movies of all time. Just thinking about it before this one, I was thinking it probably might actually even crack my top 10. I have so much fun every time I've ever watched this movie, and I just enjoy just about every single second of it. So, guys, I'm going to give RoboCop an A+. So that's been our review today of RoboCop. Tell us what you think about RoboCop in the comments, and tell us which is your least favorite sequel to RoboCop, because, man, do they get bad. You can include the remake if you'd like to. Tell me your least favorite RoboCop film in the comments. You can find Back to the Feature on Twitter at Back2Feature, and you can find us on our Facebook at /Back2Feature. I've been Giovanni Carlo.
And I'm John Vandaloo.
And we'll see you guys next time.
The future of law enforcement. RoboCop.
Thank you for your cooperation.